Last week, we explored the notion of asking the question, what if you didn't mind? When things aren't going the way we expect, and people aren't doing things the way we expect them to, and life isn't treating us the way we expect it to, and it's not what we bargained for, what if we preserved our own energy and our ability to respond by saying the words, what if I didn't mind? What if instead of upset, we let them be who they are and act as they wish, and then we turn our attention to managing ourselves? And this week I want to take it a step further, to look at how to say yes. And as I was doing my notes, I realized that I cannot do justice to yes and no in 1 week. So we're going to leave the no part for a future. I'll touch on it a little bit. But for today, I want to talk about the idea of what if you didn't mind saying yes? When people suggest things, what if we say yes? I have a habit, which those who know me might find quite annoying. I find it annoying in myself. And that is that when something suggests something that doesn't quite fit with what I had in mind, I have a tendency to dismiss their idea, or to, yeah, but, or to just reject it entirely, or to pretend I haven't heard them. And I'm hoping that the reason you're laughing isn't because you're recognizing it in me, but also that you're recognizing it in yourselves. That we all have this tendency when somebody suggests something that at times we're on board, sure, and there are other times when it's like a yes, but can we do this instead? Anyone had that experience? Please tell me it's not just me. It could be an everyday thing, as simple as what shall we have for dinner, or what TV show should we watch, or what movie should we go to, like something sort of at an everyday level. It could be something a little bit more personal, where somebody comes and says, hey, you kind of spoke out of turn, or hey, like happened today, we were going to leave at 9:15, but I thought we were leaving at 9:30, so then we had this, you're not ready, but we said we were going to leave. Everyday things that happen to all people at times. It could be something a little bit more intentional or serious, like you have a really bad habit and it's actually harming how people see you. And it's harming your experience at work, and your coworkers are starting to not like you, and whatever that might look like. It could be something between parent and child, or between child and the sibling, spouses. This happens all the time with partnerships. It could also be, and I find this to be true for me, that when somebody offers to help in some way, I have a tendency to say no. I have a tendency to be, oh no, that's okay. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And it also happens with gifts or compliments. Somebody gives you a compliment. And what's the first thing we say? Oh, you shouldn't have. Somebody gives you a compliment, and you're like, oh no, it's okay. No, nothing, it's okay. I hope that you see yourself in some of these, and hundreds more of these interactions that we have from day to day, where somebody says something and our first reaction is rejection or one-upmanship. Oh yeah, that's a good idea, but let's also consider, it's another one of the things I do all the time. And it happens Because people have something in their mind that they want to share with you. It's their subjective option or observation that they want to share with you. And sometimes they're very, very valid, and sometimes maybe less so. Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we won't. But typically, our first reaction is kind of a defensiveness. What do you do when someone offers help? What do you do when someone gives you a gift? What do you do when somebody says, hey, I saw you doing this, and I don't think it's okay? What do you do with the everyday things? Let's go do this. How often do you just say yes? For me, not as often as I would feel proud of, which is why I want to share this with you. Thank you for working with me on highlighting something that for me is a place I'd like to move towards doing a little bit better. Why does this happen? What stops us from saying yes? Well, first, especially with these little everyday habits, I know that for me, it's this need to be seen or need to be heard or need to matter, maybe need to be right. Need to feel like somehow I'm being noticed. Maybe when it comes to somebody offering ideas, that we don't always interpret those ideas as something constructive for us to consider, but rather as criticism. And as soon as we have criticism, our first and instinctive reaction is to defend ourselves. No one likes to be told what to do. My sister Jill and I have a joke because, and some of you have probably heard this, often we'll say, have a nice day. And our first reaction is, don't tell me what to do. Instead, really, it's, I wish, but really what the person is saying, the intention is, I wish you a nice day. So it's just a joke, really. But if someone says something like, if it were me, I'd have done it this way, then often we hear that sort of thing as a criticism of the way we've done it, and we get our backs up. When somebody offers us help and we don't want to accept it, it's because often we don't want to appear as if we're needy or weak. And when people give us gifts and compliments, we want to be humble. So they all come from very human places when we say, no, we don't want to do that. But unfortunately, there are consequences long term from rejecting people's ideas. In all of the situations that I've described, the other person's point of view is discounted. Instead of connection, then, we have this tendency to separate each other. It can lead to hurt feelings. It can lead to, well, why'd you ask me then? Sometimes that can lead to argument. If we interpret their suggestions as criticism and then we become defensive, then we may bristle a little, and instead of listening to what they're saying and honestly considering that there might be a nugget of truth in their observation, we have a tendency instead to want to explain our point of view and how they're wrong and what the extenuating circumstances were. We stop listening. We could walk away. And the connection piece is what really matters. And depending on how harshly we reject the person's message to us, whether it's, let's have spaghetti for supper, or, hey, you were out of line, or, let me help you, I'm here, or here is a gift and a compliment. It doesn't matter which of those scenarios we pick. If we dampen those messages from other people, then at some point, we're going to stop hearing their honest messages to us. Because what we're doing is training people not to be honest with us. In fact, at times, we will train them to tiptoe around us, even though they were being honest and courageous and saying something that might at times be uncomfortable for them to share. If our goal is to have authentic connections with people, wholehearted relationships, then surely we would want to create a space which is safe for us to hear and for the other to share what is on their mind, to share their preferences, to share their gifts, to share their talents. And in doing so, we not only build a trusting connection that is real, but there may even be a nugget of truth in some of their suggestions that can help us evolve into more connected, contented, and calm people. How do we do that? My suggestion is that we say yes more often. And there are a couple of ideas here under this idea of say yes. Think of it as the first rule of improv. Does anybody know what the first rule of improv is? Go ahead, Glenn.
Don't block, accept the offer of communication.
Exactly. Accept the offer. Agree. Say yes. Once you say yes, you can take it in multiple different directions. But the first rule of improv is you never say no. It's always yes and. So here are some ideas. Yes, and accept their suggestion. Literally, say yes. Yes, I want spaghetti for supper. Yes, let's do that. Let's go to that restaurant, whatever it might be. Yes, no one-upmanship, no second-guessing. My husband is over here rolling his eyes, I'm sure. There's a very good reason I'm not looking at him right now. Because he is very familiar with this behavior from me. Yes. Just say yes and zip it. Along with that yes is saying yes to something which can be very uncomfortable. So this is a yes and. And that is something like accepting an offer of help. Somebody comes to you and says, "What do you need?" Or, "I can help with this." Try saying yes. And accept that you are going to feel uncomfortable because you are used to a pattern where you don't say yes. You say, "No, I can do it. Superhero cape on. Woo, here I am to save the day." So yes, and live with the discomfort. Yes, and notice the truth in the idea. This is what happened this morning. Get in the car 10 minutes late. Walt's waiting there in the car. And he said, "I noticed that this is something you've done a few times." Now, if I hadn't been working on this talk, I might have gone into defensiveness. This, I'm not the only one. You do this too. And all of that is true. Yeah? But none of that is actually solving the point of the message, which is, I've noticed something that you might consider working on. And the fact that it may be true at other times for other people and that it may not always be true for me, that's all kind of irrelevant at this point. And doing any of those things is not likely to add anything to the relationship. So Rhona took a deep breath. And what I said was, yeah, you're right. There are times when I make people wait. Yes, not every time, but sometimes. Do you have any idea of the powers of the words? The power of the words, yep, you may be right. Yep, you're right. I have been a jerk at times. Yeah, I have been impatient at times. Yeah, at times I haven't listened to other people speak. Whatever it is, and I'm saying it with my words, but whatever the complaint might be, if there's even one time where you've thought that about yourself, hey, you can agree. Yeah, I've thought that about myself too at times. Why would I do that? Because it keeps the connection and it takes some accountability for my behavior. And the fact that there are other times that other people might do just the same thing, as my mom would say, 2 wrongs don't make a right. So what you want to do is take accountability for your behavior, and sometimes that means saying, yeah, that's true at times. And just the at times means that you don't have to buy into the accusation that you always, but it leaves you a place of connection. Rather than, well, you do it too, and you can imagine how that could go. It's almost as if it's like, what if they gave a war and nobody came? It's like, I refuse to engage in this in a warlike manner. Instead, I'm going to find a nugget of truth and go, yep, I agree with at least some of that. No defensiveness, no attacking on either side. Here's another yes and. Yes, and smile and nod. The power of zipping it and letting somebody have their own opinion and not having to jump in and give them the wisdom of your opinion, sometimes it's not necessary. Sometimes a person is just processing and actually there's no response required. The power of smiling and nodding is huge. Because you know that there are times that someone's going to say something, and it doesn't matter what you say, it's not going to change their mind. They are who they are, and you jumping in is going to do nothing but aggravate the situation. Just nod. Everybody has a belly button, just like everybody has an opinion. Say it backwards. Everybody has an opinion, just like everybody has a belly button. Doesn't mean that you have to agree with them. And notice how often we feel like we have to respond, but unless a response is actually requested, maybe we don't have to. Maybe they're just talking. Person having an opinion. I don't have to have the same one. Smile and nod. It's funny because I mentioned that example, or those words, smile and nod, several years ago to someone, and they came to me a period of time later, and they said that has saved some really important relationships in their life, where they just smile and nod. Because there is no benefit in doing anything else, and much harm if we try to change somebody's mind. So unless you hear the words, "What do you think?" smile and nod might be a really good option. And then there's another yes and. And that is the yes and that says, I'm going to disagree, or I'm going to decline. And what that could look like, and this is what we'll talk about more another day, but what this could look like is, yes, I can see how passionate you are about this idea. And it's not going to work for me. Yes, I can see that this is something that means a lot to you, and I'm going to say yes to our relationship, but no to that behavior. Yes, and. Yes to our relationship, no to your suggestion or your request. Imagine 2 hula hoops, you and other. To the extent that these hula hoops kind of overlap each other, this becomes harder to do. And our goal is to have hula hoop here, hula hoop there, and connection, but not necessarily overlap. Because each person is entitled to their own wisdom. And when we try to impose ourselves on their hula hoop, we run into problems. Because why? They want to do the same. They want to live in their hula hoop. Don't come into my space. Stay in your lane. And everything that I've said to you today about relationships with others actually applies to our relationships with ourselves. So I haven't spoken all that much about that, but imagine that there is a part of yourself that is talking to yourself saying, hey, what do you want to do today? And there'll be another part of yourself saying, let's do this. And then, I know this is true for me, the other part will be like, well, let's negotiate. And then sometimes nothing gets done. Even there. Or you have a part of yourself that goes, that wasn't a great idea. And then there'll be another part of yourself that has a tendency to get defensive and find some way to make it that was okay, it wasn't so bad. Again, yes, and. Find the wisdom. Find the truth. And sometimes, even with ourselves, it might mean smiling and nodding and saying, no, that's not actually right for me. In each of us, there is that part of us that's longing for something more and greater. There's a wisdom within us. And sometimes we reject that wisdom. And I haven't spent enough time, perhaps today, to encourage you to see that it's the same thing as what we do to people outside as we do to ourselves when we reject the wisdom that they may have. We do the same to ourselves. There'll be a part of ourselves that's going, I want to go back to school. And there might be another part that's like, well, you're too old, and all these other reasons why it can't work. But what if you just say yes? What if you say yes, and it's going to be difficult? Yes, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, and you're worth the yes. And so is every other person in your life. So rather than rejecting the people around you, rather than rejecting yourself, I encourage you to try this first rule of improv. It's a game they play in improv. Yes, and. Yes, straight on yes. Yes, and it's uncomfortable. Yes, yes, yes. You may be surprised at how it shifts. Not just your relationship with others, but your relationship with yourself. Smile and nod. Notice when you are in that place where you're rejecting, and find the place where you can say yes. You're worth it. And so is everyone else that you are in some relationship with. I bless you.